We've been importing for so long. If you don't now understand what is oppressing you for you to become part of the liberators, at least take the oppression of importation. Let's now liberate ourselves from importing everything. Let's start thinking of exporting now. And if we have that in our minds, we are going to carry on the legacy of liberation. Liberation is not a gift, it's a legacy. And it's not a moment. It's an ongoing sacrifice. Liberation doesn't happen once and it ends. It's a continuous process. The fight for liberating our country and for liberating our continent is still on 30 years after we have celebrated our first liberation. That was destroyed to ashes by genocide. And they are appreciating that. We have tried to work hard, to do a lot of investment, to have a good infrastructure that is attracting different events to our nation. And do we want to guard dignity and sovereignty of our nation? If yes, we are ready to carry on the legacy of liberation. If we are not ready, then we are betraying the nation. But I see no betrayer here. Today we are going to just be talking about something small, but great. How do we carry the legacy of liberation? And liberation is a fruit of oppression. In every oppression lies a seed of liberation. If you want to be a liberator, first feel you're being oppressed by whatever is oppressing you. You can never become or have a liberation spirit without an oppression spirit upon you or an oppression burden. In absence of oppression, there is no liberation. Whatever is oppressing you now, whatever is oppressing you here, whatever has been an oppression to your family, is what you can liberate yourself of. You can never liberate yourself of something that has never oppressed you. But if you're feeling that there is something that is oppressing you, then you are in a good place. You're ready to become part of those who will carry the liberation legacy. We are here celebrating 31 years of liberation. Rwanda was liberated. It was liberated of the oppression that was going on here. And here we are. And we will have some things that we'll agree upon, some facts about liberation. Number one, liberation is not a gift, it's a legacy. And it's not a moment. It's an ongoing sacrifice. Liberation doesn't happen once and it ends. It's a continuous process. The fight for liberating our country and for liberating our continent is still on 30 years after we have celebrated our first liberation. We are still on the journey of liberation. So, liberation is not a day, a one-day event. It is not a celebration or a ceremony, but a lifestyle. And when you become part of liberators, then you can be able to carry on the legacy of liberation. But when you're not acting in the liberation process, then you're part of the oppressors. And people need to liberate themselves from you. Rwanda was almost dying. It was even dead of hatred, of genocide ideology, of every mess you can talk about, of poverty and all that. And if you're not part of the team that is liberating Rwanda, that is working towards total liberation, then you're joining hatred. You're joining the genocide ideology. You're joining poverty to oppress Rwanda again. But if you feel something is oppressing you, then you're ready to take up the lead into carrying on the legacy of liberation. The people that liberated Rwanda, Jesse was talking about it, they were not younger than we are. Some of them, the elders were our age. The rest were the Kadogos, very young, like your young brothers and sisters who are in lower secondary. And some of them left their primary school to come to fight for liberation because oppression was too much in their refugee camps. And I got chance to visit the Liberation Trail, and when we reached Kagitumba, they were showing us where the liberators crossed River Umuvumba, and by the leadership of Afande, may his soul rest in peace, late Fred Jesar Guijema. And when they crossed, he had all his soldiers ready, and he put them on foreign, and he told them, we are taking off all this glory that we've been carrying, and we are throwing it in the river. We are going to start afresh to fight for a better glory. And that guy was a general. And he was ready to start afresh, to fight for a new glory of liberation. Liberation is more prestigious than the four-star general rank in the military. You know, his sons and daughters were taken care of by the government. But he wasn't happy because he was under oppression. He didn't have a nation. And that lack of a nation, I heard a story. One guy was asking him, why do you mind going back to Rwanda? You have a very big rank in our army. Your family is taken good care of. You are a close friend to our president. And what are you fighting for? And he said, being a general in a foreign land is not enough. He said he would rather be that poor young boy who is so poor that he has only one single trouser that is torn at the back, but he's in his country. The joy that young boy has is far, much better than the joy of a general in a foreign land. Do you understand that? That is the spirit of liberators. That's what liberated our nation. And that's the legacy we are talking about carrying forward. And it is our responsibility to carry, to guard the liberation that we have and we are celebrating, so it may last. I said we will talk about some few facts about liberation. And number one is, we did not start this liberation struggle. We were not there. Some of you were not born by then. But it is us to finish this liberation struggle. It is not our parents. It is not our uncles. It is not our leaders. It is us young people to finish the liberation struggle. It's a process that is still ongoing, that was started by those heroes of ours, but it is to be finished by us. And we are responsible for this nation. Number two, young people are the majority in Rwanda. And if we are not ready to take the legacy of liberation, then who will take it? We are the majority. And we are responsible. Liberation is not a moment, it's a legacy. I say this. Now the question is, how do we guard this liberation legacy, that it can last? Are we ready to guard it? Are we even ready? What legacy did we have? With this liberation that we got, did we get from our parents? We got peace and security. We have that in abundance. I am sure we are going to go out of here. Some of you will have some chats out here. Some of you might choose to pass by somewhere. After all, tomorrow is a weekend. You don't care when you're going to go home because you're sure of the security. Do you want to have it more like that? If yes, it's us to carry the legacy forward. We have unity and reconciliation as one of our key values. We have chosen as Rwandans to be Abanyarwanda. Instead of being Hutus, Twas, and Tutsis, we have chosen to be Abanyarwanda. And it's us young people to guard that spirit. If we start thinking of our ethnic groups that destroyed our nation, that oppressed our parents, and made them liberate, made them hunger for fighting this oppression, and they liberated the nation, then we are going to be betraying our nation. But if we choose kuba Abanyarwanda beyond anything that might differentiate us, then we are choosing to carry on the legacy of liberation. Dignity and sovereignty of the nation. Our nation is respected. Why? Because our leaders have chosen to guard it jealously. Our president have chosen to give value to the nation. And wherever you go, you say, I am from Rwanda. They say, you're just awesome people. You're just wonderful men and women. You're wise people. We appreciate your president. We like what Kagame is doing to Rwanda. We appreciate how you were able to reconcile the nation that was torn, that was destroyed to ashes by genocide. And they are appreciating that. We have tried to work hard, to do a lot of investment, to have a good infrastructure that is attracting different events to our nation. And do we want to guard dignity and sovereignty of our nation? If yes, we are ready to carry on the legacy of liberation. If we are not ready, then we are betraying the nation. But I see no betrayal here. Visionary leadership. I don't know when we are having other elections, but we are going to vote for another great leader again. We've been having a very great leader, and very many other leaders that have been supporting our president, Paul Kagame, and his visionary leadership. I remember once I was in a village, and we were in a community gathering, and someone said, Vision makumyabiri makumyabiri. Elder people were not aware of that until he said Vision 2020. The moment he said 2020, they were like, you want to give just. Why? Our leadership envisioned Vision 2020. They brought it to the minds of Rwandan people. And they understood it. By its name even, they understood what it meant, to the extent that any slight edit about Vision 2020 was an error. But do you see what we envisioned in Vision 2020 here? We have Vision 2050. We have Vision 2030. If we are able to achieve Vision 2020, despite of the background that we were coming from, now imagine how simple it is if we choose to guard the legacy. How simple is it going to be for us to achieve Vision 2050? Now, when we are going there from the present situation of the nation that we have, it's up to us to contribute towards this. And it's us to carry on with the visionary leadership in whatever thing you're reading. At least if you are not reading anything, the way you're reading yourself, be a visionary leader to yourself. Don't betray yourself. Then, institutions and development. We've got nice institutions that are doing a lot of great work. And when you say, you hear RDB, you can understand what I'm talking about. Rwanda Development Board. It has done a lot. Those are institutions that are doing a lot of great work. We have very different ministries that are doing a lot of great work. We have Ministry of Youth and the Arts that is helping young people. We have very many initiatives that are working towards making our nation better. And it's up to us to guard those institutions and the development that we are having. And remember, all these, they were paid for in blood and courage. And because they were paid for in blood, we cannot guard it, we cannot guard them with entertainment. We cannot guard them. They were paid for in courage. We cannot guard them in laziness. We don't need to be lazy to guard something that was paid for in courage. We don't need to sleep so that we can guard something that was paid for by sleepless nights. Young people, let's wake up. Now, the issue with the liberation is the danger of complacency. The spirit of taking things for granted. Yes, we were liberated 31 years ago, and we are happy. We've got security. We've got nice leadership. We've got wealth. We've got education. We are going to school. We are having university degrees. We are having security and peace and all that. We are even exporting security. And that's how things should be. And we take that for granted. No, that's not how they guard the legacy of liberation. If we take them for granted, if we create this spirit of complacency and its danger, we are going to see this prosperity, and it is going to breed to us forgetfulness. And we will forget the history of our nation. We will forget the ashes that we are coming from. We will forget the life in refugee camps where our parents used to live. We will forget the gachacha courts that used to sit every evening to take some of the parents to jail. We will forget the tears of people that were crying for their loved ones dying in 1994. We will forget for the houses that were burned in 59, in 63, in 72, in 94, and 90s. We'll forget all that. We'll forget the brothers and sisters that shed their blood for us to have the liberation, for us to have the prosperity that we are having. And the biggest threat for liberation is the disconnect. When we get disconnected from the spirit that liberated the nation, we start killing the liberation spirit itself. We don't need at all to disconnect ourselves from the liberators. We need to keep learning from them. Because remember, we never started this liberation. If we want to finish it, then we need to stay watchful. We need to become fast learners and continuous learners so we can learn from those who began the liberation struggle, from those who liberated the nation. And if we do that, if we remain connected to the Spirit, then we'll be able to contribute. We will consume the fruits of liberation. But if we have this spirit of complacency, we will just consume them without planting more trees of liberation. Yes, our parents, our leaders have done a lot. But what are we doing as young people? We are benefiting from education systems they are put in place. Some of them, you complain about them. But what are you doing? What trees are you planting? Let me take you a bit. Let me take you a bit to the east. We share about Samsung journey. You all know Samsung. You know Samsung? Yes. Samsung in 1930, that's when it was started. And it started as a trading shop in Korea. They were selling groceries. Shop! Boutique ngiyo kwa kazungu. Hariya kwa murokore muri karitsiye. That's how Samsung started. And it meant triple stars in the Korean language. And In 1960s, the founder, the father of Lee Kun-hee, handed it over to his son, Lee Kun-hee. And then they were from war when it started. Korea was very down to ashes, struggling, but they were selling. And the father of Lee Kun-hee contributed to just rebuild the nation that was from war, that was struggling. And he just diversified, started doing a lot of things. And when he handed it over to his son in 1960s and to 80s, that's when they moved from grocery and just trading a shop, they moved to manufacturing and to electronics. That's when they started the journey of manufacturing now. And he was quoted in 1993. He said he had a meeting with his employees, and he told the employees, change everything in this company except your wives and children. That was a mind shift. That was a hunger for change. And this young man was carrying on the legacy of his father. The father was struggling hard to make sure he brings something on the table through trading and the shop that he was having in a war-torn environment. But when the young man, when the son took over from him, he came with sharp minds. And we young people, we are like Lee Kun-hee, who took over from the father who had a trading shop and transformed the trading shop through manufacturing, through research and development, and he was able to become a global tech leader. Why? He brought in new ideas. And here we are. The parents did their roles. They rebuilt Rwanda after liberating it. And now they have handed it over to us young people. We are the majority. We are over 70. And we have the country, the nation in our hands. We are the ones to carry on the legacy of liberation. And we are like Lee Kun-hee. I am not urging you to ask to change everything except your wives. You don't have wives and children. But let's not change everything. Let's multiply impact. Let's build on what they have put in front of us. Let us build on this security and peace that we are having. Let us build on this sovereignty and dignity that we have. Let's innovate. Let's create new things for the nation. The people that liberated this nation had values that guided them throughout the whole liberation struggle. And those are the values that we need to carry forward as we innovate the tech ideas that can transform this nation. They didn't have a lot of information. They didn't have access to internet. But today, Rwanda is among the nations, the countries that have cheap internet and strong one. And how do we leverage on that to bring new other technical ideas that can transform Rwanda and make it a tech hub that will attract very many other investors, that will attract very many other people who are like-minded, who see our innovations, that we can transform this nation and Africa. We've been importing for so long. If you don't now understand what is oppressing you for you to become part of the liberators, at least take the oppression of importation. Let's now liberate ourselves from importing everything. Let's start thinking of exporting now. And if we have that in our minds, we are going to carry on the legacy of liberation. Rwanda and our own Samsung story. Liberation was a turning point. Like Lee Kun-hee. We started from ashes, the father started from ashes. But with vision, with discipline and sacrifice, we were able to innovate Gachacha, Jiringa, government, Irembo and all that. And we are rising, but the journey is not yet over. It's just the start. We are just starting. Let's remember what made Rwanda what it is today. It's having a vision. And in our programs, we normally teach about vision and sense of purpose. If you have your personal vision and you carry it, you're going to transform your poor background you can't talk about today into something great. If Lee Kun-hee was able to transform a minor shop into a global tech giant, transform your bad beginning into a great end. And by doing that to yourself, you're contributing to liberation journey of the nation. Discipline. When you choose to sell discipline for regret, you will have a lot of regrets. But I want to tell you, there is no amount of regret that will change your past. Even if you hire all the borders in Kigali to work with you in regretting for your bad past, nothing will change. So, let's choose discipline over regret. And everything that is to stay, it never comes the easy way. And discipline is the one that will guide us into reaching that will come to stay, the hard way. Discipline is the driver in the hard way. But when we go to find the shortcuts, when we cry for shortcuts, we will cry until when Jesus comes to take the church. Because shortcuts will never take you there. And the hard part of it, sacrifice. What are you sacrificing today? At your work, in your academics, in your home, in your family, what are you sacrificing today? I had a story of Usain Bolt. He won some good medals in athleticism after learning, becoming number one for several times. And then they asked him, what do you do for you to become always number one? He said, when we are to start learning, when we are on a get set, I have in mind the other line that you cross when you've become number one. That's what is in my mind. And the journalist told him, but don't you get tired? I love his answer. He said, I never rest when I'm tired. I rest when I'm done. But young people, you want to rest. And rest because you have rested so much. And that will never take you anywhere. I don't know anyone who have become better because they have rested so much. If you know him or her, please let me know. But I don't have anyone in mind. We should learn from him, and we should have this attitude of resting when we are done. But what are we being done of or with? You want to rest when you're done. With what? What do you have in your mind? What are you pursuing so that when you rest, you can now know when to rest because you've finished that one? You have academics in front of you. Some projects are in front on your table. And you're like, oh, tomorrow I have the whole day. The spirit of procrastination have killed many people. And some of them are in graves with their business plans that they never started. And 2 hours of work, of acting, of doing something are very impactful and greater than 20 hours of thinking of something. It's high time that we start doing instead of thinking. Thinking is okay, but thinking and not doing what you thought about, it's like wasting your thinking. One hour of doing is far better than 10 years of thinking. The spirit of procrastination is arrogance to God. That, oh, let me not do it. After all, God is giving me another day. Are you sure he's giving you another day? That spirit of arrogance, that's arrogance. If you have something to do, do it. And do it today. Do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow. You never know what is coming tomorrow. And when you're sacrificial, you can't procrastinate. Because you do what you are supposed to do today and what we are supposed to do tomorrow. Because you've given in a lot more than what we are supposed to give in. And our parents sacrificed their lives. And you are not sacrificing your 10 minutes. You're not sacrificing your day. You're not sacrificing your energy to work on something. Now, how do we add it? We need to be new founders now. We need to be new founders. We need to start where we are. If you are doing business, like some of you, I saw you, start there. Make sure you contribute to the nation. Your business matters a lot in this liberation struggle we are in. Education, you're studying. Study as if you're studying for yourself, for your family, for the nation, and for God. And if you have that attitude, what you will study will transform our nation. But if you study as if you're studying on, it won't be of help. You will get marks, but nothing will change. In the service you're giving out. make sure you're doing it as if you're carrying on the legacy of liberation. Serve others wholeheartedly. Give in your heart fully. Carry the mindset of nation builders, not nation destroyers. If whatever you're doing it as someone who is building a nation, as if you're putting your brick on the nation building, then you're carrying on the legacy of liberation. Innovate for sovereignty of the nation. Your idea is not yours alone. It's for the world to consume. Lee Kun-hee started Samsung. He ventured into electronics, and how many here used Samsung? If you know you used Samsung, raise your hand. If you know you used Samsung at some point. Now, all of you here who raised your hands benefited from Lee Kun-hee. Why? Because he innovated. And because of Samsung, some of you now know Korea. Someone innovated Hyundai. Hey, someone still uses Samsung. Saidi. Oh, and Tisha. And David is using Nokia, old version. Yes. And some of us know Korea because of Kia, Hyundai. Some men innovated and they thought about those things. And we came to know their nation. Let's innovate. Let's think about something. And through that thing, people will know Rwanda. People will know our nation. People will know your nation because you innovated. Let's create local and national solutions. Let's learn from our parents. They started homegrown solutions. If it wasn't for Gacaca Court, cases should have been piled up to today for 1994 genocide. Because the court procedures were not going to handle the cases that we had. They were not going to contribute to reconciliation of the nation. But our parents innovated. They created ideas and they created national solutions, homegrown solutions. And the homegrown solutions that they created, they now created unity and reconciliation. They transformed our nation. And here we are. We are better off now. Let's practice legacy leadership. Let's keep in our mind that whatever we are doing should stay, should be carried forward by the next generation, should be taken on. We should give out the baton to our sons and our daughters. And we have a very big challenge. In our hands, we have got Rwanda that is better than how it was 31 years ago. And we have a very big responsibility to hand it over to our sons and daughters better than how it is today. And if we don't be watchful, we might be ashamed. But I see great future in your faces. I see great Rwanda in your faces. In our time, Rwanda will be great. In our time, Rwanda will be unstoppable. In our days, Rwanda will be irrefutable. No one will stand against it. Why? Because we are carrying on from the legacy of great leaders, of great giants. We are standing on the shoulders of Paul Kagame's. We are standing on shoulders of James Kabarebe's. We are standing on shoulders of those leaders that we admire in our government and in our community and in our continent. And if we carry that legacy, no one will stand in front of us. No one will stop us from becoming great. Even great will call us great because we have chosen to carry and protect the legacy of liberation. Let's live these values of integrity, patriotism, and responsibility that we see in those who liberated our nations. The men in uniform that liberated Rwanda, they had patriotism at their heart. They had integrity. And they were very responsible. That's why we are where we are today. Let's tell and defend the story of Rwanda and the true story of Rwanda. Some of the genocide perpetrators left our nation. They went to exile. But guilty is killing them badly that they can't keep quiet until they change the story. And it's us to protect the story and tell the story as it is. How do we tell the story as it is? We need to learn the history of the nation. We need to learn the true history. And after knowing it, we will be able to tell it. And don't shy out of anything. I will tell you a story on this. In 2019, I went to US for the prayer breakfast. Before the US prayer breakfast, there was a sideline conference in Winchester, and it had ministers, some deputy presidents, some MPs from Africa and from the other continents. And in the session, I read the schedule for the whole conference. And one of the speakers they had brought is a very prominent guy who happened to be an ambassador of Rwanda in the US at some point. But he lacked some of the values. He had integrity issues. And because of some integrity issues, he was stopped from being an ambassador, and he rebelled from the government. So when he rebelled, he changed the story of the nation so that he can destroy his own country. And now when we were in a conference, they had him as a keynote speaker. This guy was in the US for very many years. This guy at one point was in military in Rwanda, and he was a big political figure. Now in the conference, he starts sharing Rwandan story in a wrong way. He talked about double genocide that happened in Rwanda. He started accusing and abusing our president, saying there is no freedom of worship in Rwanda. In fact, they have crossed 700 churches in Rwanda. That was in the other season of crossing churches, giving some criteria. And now he spoke for the whole 1 hour and a half, destroying the nation. And after he had shared, some other men, big men, gave their comments, and I had gone, not sent by the nation. I had gone through Cornerstone, and no one in the government had sent me to do anything. But I remembered it's my responsibility to protect our nation. And someone who was leading the program is an ex-senator of the US. He was a congressman. And he was like, we are privileged, ladies and gentlemen, to have in our midst someone to affirm all that, who came from Rwanda. Now, they were like, let's put our hands together for Peter Nkotanyi to say something. Now, my heart was beating more than normal. And I had a devil's voice speaking to me, telling me, this guy who said all that, he's a big mafia in the US. And you see from the programmer, he's a close friend to the ex-senators in the US. So if you contradict him, you might have some issues. I heard that, and I heard the other voice telling me, Jisafred Rwigema was a general, but he died protecting the nation. He left all his dignity and glory to protect the nation. What are you protecting that is bigger than the nation? I was like, okay. That was a bit faster. I stood up. I got a mic. I was like, before I say anything, I am not from any government office in Rwanda. I came from a civil society part of the nation. I am going to speak as a Rwandan citizen, not a government official. And what I'm going to say is what I see. I told them, you're all elites, you know what genocide is, you understand all these 10 stages of genocide. I repeated them for them. I told them I will repeat them for you, for reference. I said, you all know how all these steps were followed for 1994 genocide against Tutsi. And the honorable speaker that is here, I will ask him to just tell us how one of these stages correlates with the second genocide he's talking about. And I quoted him. I was like, I quoted some years, I don't want to say the years so that you don't know who is who. I was like, at this period of time, you were talking about the 1994 genocide against Tutsi alone, and because you had issues with the government of Rwanda, you changed what you were talking about at that time. What changed is not the genocide. What changed is you. I confronted him. And I told him, if you didn't have issues, you should have said it right way. But because you had issues, you are saying it with your issues in it. And I said, for the freedom of worship, I told them a true example. I told them, the church I go for, I worship from, was closed in those 700 churches, he said. And we were given lists of things to work on so that they can reopen it for us. We worked on those things in 1 week. They reopened the church. We now have fellowship. The reason why they closed churches, it was for human security issues. Some pastors had churches that were putting lives of Rwandan people in danger because they were not of good quality. And I gave them examples of the 2 churches that had fallen to people before the closure of the churches, with the facts. And I told them, all he said it as a politician, but for me I said it as a citizen. Choose what to hear from. He was humiliated. He didn't attend the second day of the conference. He left that day evening. After a week, after 4 days, we went to the DC for the prayer breakfast. Then when I was at the lobby of the Hilton Hotel, he came. When he was entering into the hotel lobby, he saw me. He turned back, he left the hotel. This guy was an ambassador. This guy is an ex-military guy. When I say, tell and defend the story, don't worry about who you're against, as long as it's wrong. The Bible says, umunyabyaha yiruka ntakimwirukanyije. Nawe umwirukanyije ariruka gusa. However giant that person might be, as long as you're telling the truth, he will run away from you. Because lies will always fear the truth. And the truth will always chase away lies. Light, when light comes, darkness runs away. And it doesn't wait for big light. The smaller light that you might bring out, it chases darkness. And as we conclude, let's be generation of purpose. And you need to ask yourself this: what is my contribution to the legacy of liberating our nation? Yes, the liberation is a process. The liberation struggle continues. What is your contribution in this? Will the next generation thank or accuse us? How are we going to handle it? Are we going to be appreciated by them, or we are going to be accused by them? Liberation is not just surviving the past. It is designing the future. I repeat this. Liberation is not just surviving from the past. It's designing the future that we want. And our parents played a very big role in surviving the past. It's our responsibility now to design the future so that the liberation will be complete. We have a challenge then. If we couldn't build something from noodles and war, we can build a Rwanda the world has never seen. And we are to guard the legacy, not with fear, but with fire. We have that responsibility. Let's build, let's guard, and let's lead with integrity, with discipline, and with responsibility. Have a wonderful evening.